Hey, what's going on, everyone? Check out what's coming up this week on Legacy.
Maybe we should take vacations more often because shit like that's...
No.
People think this is going to be the greatest gift that's happened to our economy. And I get up and I title my show, Cannabis, It's a Bong Show. You can imagine the audience, the pushback, the lightning bolts coming at it.
I'm not joking. Anyways.
That's a clip for the intro. I don't know if I can use it, though, but we'll see.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Legacies. I'm your host, Tom Ritchie, joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Wesley, the Wizard Bowles. How you doing, Wes?
Oh, feels nice to be back off vacation.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And exciting news over our vacation time, just so everyone knows. Legacies podcast is now powered by Breadstack. Thank you very much. Amazing. It's a big fucking milestone, man, for us. But Breadstack, obviously, we've vetted various sponsorship opportunities in the past, and we could completely align with Breadstack. Incredible team, and on a mission to do exactly what we were talking about for the longest time, which is increasing your digital presence, making it easier for customers to find you and interact with you. And Breadstack, fuck, they do that well, man. Really well. You actually had the opportunity of working on a project with them, so you got to know the team a little bit closer, and that's where I'm like, can you vouch for them?
Yeah, it was our a big thank you to Lisa from Stoked for that kind of introduction, because did a little bit of work with them on that site, and yeah, it turned out great and super excited. Yeah.
Well, listen, for any retailers that are looking to boost your e-com and have a proper solution in place, hit Breadstack up. Tell them we sent you, because you'll be blown away. Request a demo. Just sit through it. You'll be impressed. We guarantee it. And one of the things that there's actually out of this, for those that don't know, we've been getting a small amount of criticism over a post that came this week. We won't get into too much of that right now.
What could you possibly be talking about?
What could I possibly be? It was my stance on the black market. And it was completely taken out of context as usual. But anyways, there was a comment amongst many, and it was actually over on the Twitter space, I think. X space. I'm sorry, Elon. But it was keyword search results and how illegal moms and illicit dispensaries are still higher on the search results. And I'm reading that comment going, this is what Breadstack solves, right? Like e-commerce, SEO, that's the thing. Chat, you name it.
Yeah, an illicit store doesn't have to use the pre-approved menu options that are out there for the industry right now, right? So they have no limitation on, you get a great SEO guy in there, and all of a sudden your site's ranking really well.
They rank really high, but not for long. Smart retailers that sign on, obviously Stoked has, and we know a bunch in the queue and some of the projects they're working on. Just an incredible team, but even more so an incredible solution. And you need to be looking at this. If you're frustrated with your online menu options, SEO results, contact Breadstack. We guarantee, again, we only represent and work with products we love, brands we love, and of course solutions. So signing on a title sponsor like Breadstack was very important for us, obviously, but we had to believe in their business model and the team. And we're happy we did.
Maybe we should take vacations more often, because shit like that's
No, dude, I've got fucking FOMO so bad. And it's funny because I jumped on and posted that one clip about, being away, and I got FOMO. Thank you to StratCan. And it was about cannabis sales dipping. And it was really, I have my opinions. It was really just a discussion piece. I wanted to hear what everyone else thought about it. Because sometimes we'll look at it and go, oh no, what's going to happen? Like all things, everything is seasonal, right? And I don't mean that in seasonal sales. I mean, you've got a winter, you've got a spring, and eventually, you cycle through again. Good things always end up coming out. So.
Yeah, there was a really good comment thread on the X post on that. There was a lot of I think there's too many factors. I don't think there's one you can pinpoint for all of that. I think seasonality, overall economic situation. Although I don't think that's as big a thing as everyone might think. But
and when we post it, everyone thinks that we're saying, oh, the black market is stealing the lunch from the. It's not what the fuck we're talking about, guys. Like, come on, just settle down. Okay. We, in this particular clip that got broken out, maybe I'll do a follow-up. I don't know, but it was about illicit stores and retailers. We had Lisa from Stoked on talking about the challenges of retail, her history, her ride into the industry, and 2 doors down, an illicit store open. My comment was, if you're shopping at these illicit stores, and so, here's the thing, some don't know, they don't know, but it is full of illicit product. They don't have to follow the same rules, right? Call me a whiner. You know, some of the comments were like, fuck, dude, like threats. Seriously. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? And clearly, you know, these individuals have never watched an episode. They don't know my background, your background. And that's okay. We don't need you to. This is a podcast about the regulated industry, and we share the stories of the legacy market. But at some point in time, we all mature. And some of these individuals that are now friends, some are family, they've sunk their life savings into making a go of this. So we will 100% support them. Make my
100%.
Right. Like, come on.
You know what's crazy to me too? When I'm you know, you hear about some of these illicit market guys and some of their brands and some of their products. There's some extremely smart individuals out there doing this stuff. They're actually incredibly smart, and they
have fucking incredible product.
Like, there's some of these guys out there on the illicit market who, you know, we have some legal brands now who struggle with, they grow great weed, but then they kind of struggle on the marketing and business side of things. Right. Some of these illicit guys, I wonder what they could do if they truly actually were able to or wanted to transition over, right? It's mind-boggling to me, but, you know,
listen, again, for me, and I've shared this with you before, because so many asked, you know, in the early days of Ample, like, why did you give up your grow? Why did you stop doing that? Why, you know, because it was very clear. I didn't want to keep looking over my shoulder. At the time, as the Cannabis Act, so I rode through MMAR, MMPR, ACMPR, and then eventually the Cannabis Act, which I did not apply, and I did not switch my licensing. And for me, I could make a go into that space, which was kind of chaos at the time. Or I could look at how can I contribute to the legal market. But in the back of my mind, because of announcements that came out along with it, which was increased penalties for operating illegally. You know, in those days when I was operating, for the most part, it was a slap on the wrist, right? It really was. You might get some probation, potentially jail time, depending on how many pounds you're caught with and what your intent is. But for the most part, first time offense, slap on the wrist. And I looked at that and said, I have a growing family. I do not want to be on the wrong side of this, should anything go wrong. So let me take my skill set, what I know about the industry, and transition into the legal side. And that was my choice. I'm not condemning those that are continually operating in it. That's not what I'm saying. I do not like seeing illicit stores that are full of these products, right? It was different with the pounds that I dropped. They were black market through and through. They weren't getting repackaged into pretty bags and sold at illicit stores or at moms. They were not. They were pounds getting broken up into quarters or into ounces, and they were getting sold. And I didn't test it. I didn't test it. I knew how I grew it, and those that knew me knew how I grew it, and it was safe to us. It was safe to them. It wasn't full of fucking mold and botrytis, and there wasn't any issues like that. No spider mites. It was all organic. But at the same time, I had to make that decision. For me, now listen, these illicit market individuals that are still operating, you got balls. I get it. Your risk tolerance is much fucking higher than mine. And kudos to you for that. If you can make a go of it and do it. But when I've got friends that have literally remortgaged houses and, you know, gathered as much money as they can to fund their operations to make a go of it legally, I think this isn't the podcast for you. If it just isn't. I'm sorry. There's another one, and it's no disrespect to what you're doing, but you know, when there's a store in direct competition with those that are friends, and they've sunk so much money into trying to succeed with enough fucking challenges, I do have a problem with that. Anyways,
but you know what? The last thing I'll say to you is freedom of speech, freedom of expression. We appreciate the conversation
for now.
And we thank you for the engagement.
We do thank you for the engagement. Listen, we do thank that genuinely. I'm sorry we struck a nerve. Or am I? I don't know if I am actually.
You could be sorry for striking a nerve and not being sorry for the point you made, because you still feel that way. But if
I think the funny thing is, and I'm not going to belabor the point, but is just ignorance and not knowing. They don't know me. They don't know you. They don't know our background, our history. They don't know what we've done in the current industry, what we did in previous industries. There was one comment, something about, ask this guy if he even knows an OG strain from 2000. Get the fuck out of here. Like, please, please. 1990, I started. 2000? Crawl back under your fucking rock. Like, Jesus. Anyways, it was nice that we had some vacation time, but like I said, FOMO, and I'm still fucking sore. So you came down, we had some pizza. It wasn't overly party central. I mean, we were just kind of laid back old people, like, we're down at the cottage. We're down at the cottage. Hit the beach. It was a good day. You didn't get out on the wave runner. I did, and fuck, that thing just beats the shit out of you. And I think it was the next day we finally got the wakeboard and the tube and stuff out. So, Ashton got up. He's a sporty kid. No problem. Takes his turns. Dad, are you going to try? I'm like, oh, fuck, it's been 20 years. Literally. And I'm like, okay, on we go. And I think I've had back surgery since then. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. No problem. I don't know if I'll get the boots on, but here we go. I did it. And I am still fucking paying for it. My lats are so sore from that. Anyways, it was a good time. Nice to be out. Obviously, we still pay attention to as much as we can, but yeah, it's weird. Entrepreneur, like when you've got that deep rooted entrepreneurial spirit, you've got to be working, you've got to be driving. And I've gone back to so much. Like
I originally said the week before the podcast, just before we went on vacation, I said, "Oh, I'm going to use that time to get a bunch of work done on these projects we're working on." Yeah. And then I think I worked on it for like one day, and I realized to myself, "No, if I don't force myself just for these couple of days to completely, I'll regret 2-3 weeks from now when I've that I didn't." Right? So
yeah.
As hard as it was, I did.
Yeah, it's really tough. I did take my computer with me, and I think I opened it the first couple of days, and I'm like, I'm done. I need to disconnect. We do need to do that. It is difficult. We suggest that anyone. God, I think of so many in this industry right now that, like legacy market. You know what I'm talking about. But anyways, fuck. Kai, right? Kai at 1337 Elite. These guys don't get breaks. They can't take a break, and it's difficult, and it's due to a lot of the challenges in this industry. One is just, there's no money to pay people. So they pay themselves last, right? And we know the stories. 3, 4, 5 years without a paycheck, just paying the bills, right? Just paying the bills. It's tough. Did you catch, well, of course you caught it. I haven't read it yet, but what in the fuck is going on with Zuckerberg, the COVID fucking Biden-Harris administration shit? In the back of my mind, I keep thinking this guy is so jealous of Elon Musk that he's coming clean on stuff. And you mentioned this as well. I do want to get your opinion on it, but Instagram, it seems less and less people being shadow banned or blocked or accounts taken down. I don't know. When all coming together.
So the letter you're talking about that Zuckerberg released, which I highly doubt Zuckerberg wrote that letter, right? That's gone through a million legal departments within Meta.
Could you imagine if he wrote it? From his early days Facebook, the Facebook.
Yeah. But it's interesting. It got my mind turning as soon as I read that, because I was like, it's funny because we know as not even a cannabis touching brand, but just as an ancillary kind of brand, that Instagram posts and Instagram used to be quite harsh on, as soon as you post something gets flagged or taken down or your account's forced to be private. And I was just curious with the community as well of, you guys used to post quite often. We used to see it all the time on, oh, my account's been taken down, or my post was flagged, or I'm being censored. I have not personally seen that on our side for a couple of months now, and I haven't seen that from your guys' accounts either. I'm curious if you guys are still seeing it. My thought is that Meta is feeling the pressure from the popularity that X is getting and all of the talk of free speech and expression, and that Zuckerberg or Meta as a whole may be starting. I'm not saying it's a complete, impossibility to get blocked or flagged anymore, but I'm wondering if we're feeling a little bit of leniency on certain things now because of what they're feeling pressure from on the X side.
It's gotta be affecting them because, revenues are revenues, right? And, though Elon took a very hard stance on advertisers, but that's another subject. But the one thing that I'll say is that took a lot of balls, period, just to come out and admit that, because the amount of fallout that is going to come and has come so far is astronomical. Like that is
Yep.
that is election shifting now. Crazy. We're not in the U.S.
Yeah, part of me also thinks too is that it's that letter is a little bit. It's obviously very self-serving. That letter. I don't think it's as free and open as people.
It's
think
almost
it is.
a woe is me. Look what they did to us.
Right.
And
It's
made us
not so much
Yeah.
Zuckerberg coming out going, "Oh, the government's wrong." We're on everyone's side. It's more of
Right.
we see something coming. We need to get ahead of this now because when that election happens, if Trump gets into office again,
Mhm.
Meta can really see a target on their back. So I
Right.
think that I think it's more of a self-serving play than anything. However, if it's a self-serving play and it gets us a little bit more freedom on Instagram as cannabis brands, then
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Yeah.
Totally. Well, why wouldn't we be? Yeah, it's just it's such a weird world we're living in. I never in a million years would have thought that something like that would come out, but whatever. I'd have a question for you. I caught a post this morning. I don't know if I did slack it over to, I slacked it in general, J Key. I've never told that story. It's the funniest fucking thing in the world. But anyways, slacked it in general. I've seen this a couple times. It was of someone's opinion. I think it was on LinkedIn. And it was of someone's opinion that, and they weren't asking a question. It was a statement. And the statement was this. It was, if you are in specifically sales and marketing in the cannabis space and you do not consume, that is wrong. Wrong in like capital letters wrong.
Yes.
The amount of comments was like, I didn't follow this person. I think someone I knew had commented or something. And I'm like, holy shit, there was like 240 plus comments on both sides of it. I've seen it before. I've thought about it. I still have not come to a conclusion. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think so. I have a couple of thoughts on this. The one on the marketing side, if you're in marketing, I don't know 100% that I would say if you're not consuming, I don't think that's the case. I think you could still, as a marketing team in a department, understand a value proposition and effectively communicate that in a design or in copy, right?
Yeah.
On the sales side of things, I still see, how you couldn't consume and still be effective. However, I also think in that thread, though, there was a lot of confusion over some people were conflating consumption with overconsumption. Like a lot of people were saying, oh, I don't consume in sales anymore because I was smoking way too much. And that's why I don't try all these products. And it's like, well, yeah, we're not saying you need to be, smoking a joint every other hour. It's I've got a new product I'm going to be selling. Let me sample it with a half-gram joint.
How do you talk about the notes in it? The burn, the quality. I mean, you can take it, secondhand, I guess. But I don't know. It's something that I haven't put enough thought into because I think when you talk marketing, I go back to my advertising agency days, and not everyone on a certain project had a chance to drive a Porsche. But they're still on the team and putting everything together in the creative.
Yeah. Does everyone who works for a Lamborghini or Porsche, they don't all own and drive them, right? Like, no. So again, they're different things because
absolutely different things. But even in the alcohol industry, I know of many. Remember, we had last call analytics at Ample, and there was many interactions that we had, and it was a BevElk space, and it was a tool for the BevElk space, and not everyone drank. Now, obviously, alcohol is far from cannabis, and I get that. And the addictions are much different. I won't weigh in on that either, but I understand why certain individuals in that space no longer drank. I think to some that are even in the cannabis industry that they previously worked in BevElk and they're like, my life was a mess. It was a mess.
I think there's also, and I think there's also there'd probably be stark differences just category to category within cannabis, right? Like if you're selling nice wellness products like Stuart Farms does, Imagine Mercer, topicals and things like that. Yeah, I think definitely you should definitely probably be trying those, right? If we're talking about high THC, triple infused, diamond rolled, different story, I think. Yeah. But I think there could be some differences as well, category to category.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear what everyone's thoughts are. If you're in cannabis, should you be a consumer of cannabis in order to effectively sell or market? I don't. Yeah, I'm usually very opinionated, right? Which I think you're waiting for. Which side are you on, Tom? I'm like,
no, I don't know, man. On the fence is. It's funny though. I had an opinion, and then the way you just worded that, it kind of went. My mind kind of went obvious. Like, yeah. You should be like the way you had that
the
worded.
Instant
I'm
response
like, wait a minute.
And thought is, well, yeah. Why wouldn't you? Right? I'm a lumber salesman, but I build with steel. I don't know. There's a lot of comparisons, but none are anywhere close to this industry. That's for sure. So I know you brought down a plethora of product with you in the intent that maybe you were staying over and we didn't consume any. But I know you've consumed this. So Dom Jackson, I think we mentioned that we had gotten Dope Box as ambassadors to the program, just so everyone knows. Okay. It's on the legit side. We only speak of products that we can get behind. Have you tried anything out of that box? Like their banjo pre-rolls.
I have demolished the banjo pre-rolls, and as well as I had a pack of flour.
They're not distributed in my area yet. I'm going to make sure that at least 1, 2, 3 stores in my area have this product. It is phenomenal. And I haven't tried this one yet. You know me, I'm a lazy guy. I love the pre-rolls, but I do take time you come down with them all fucking rolled up and in tubes and ready to go. And
I got a nice auto roller and pre-made filters. Just
fuck. This one's called. So the other one, the one that I have tried is banjo, and I can tell you, live, high flyer, stamp proof. Try Dom Jackson, 100%. This one is called Merry-Go-Round. I got rid of it's going to be really hard to see, but you do need to see. Maybe you can put a logo or something up, but it's
the THC logo's not on there, right?
No, I Sharpied that fucker out. Yeah, it's gone.
Speaking of censorship on Instagram.
Well, yeah. But this smells phenomenal. I have not tried the merry-go-round yet. I will. This is on the menu for this evening, probably.
I wonder if
But the banjo
over there.
I took that out. You might have to blur that.
Actually, let me check. I think I've got that here. I want to see if that's the flower I have from them.
Yeah. I think there's merry-go-round. What is this one? So 29.3 and
yeah, it's the one I've got there. I've still got to roll those up, but yeah, that's the same one I have.
But smells phenomenal. Proper packaging. I was just thinking it's interesting that illicit market product, they want to operate, be completely separate, yet they're trying to mimic in some of their packaging. They'll put the THC logo on. You've seen this. I think I've shared this before. You've seen there's some phony excise stamps that are on them. Guys, Listen, I'm being very serious right now. If you get caught doing that, that is a fucking federal offense at the CRA level. Do not do that. Do not do that. Keep doing what you're doing if you want, but don't do that. That you're talking balls. Those are balls big enough to come in a dump truck, right? Like that's some serious shit, man. I'm not joking. Anyways,
that's a clip for the intro. I don't know if I can use it though, but we'll see.
Like, putting a THC logo on is one thing, but using phony excise stamps to make it seem legit or regulated. I've dealt with the CRA. They don't fuck around, man. They do not fuck around.
Nope, not with mine.
Anyways, today's guest is going to be fucking incredible. I know you're not as familiar, so I come from that world of advertising. Mr. Tony Chapman is joining us today. Host of Chatter That Matters, massive accolades in the advertising, marketing, public relations side. Founded 2 international advertising agencies. Individual has been inducted into the Marketing Hall of Legends. He has been inducted to the cannabis. It's always in my brain. Sorry, Tony. The Canadian Public Relations, Marketing, and Advertising Hall of Fame as well. He's been on the Dales Report. He's on BNN. He's on this guy is the epitome of understanding marketing. And he, in the early days, 2017, he had some very strong opinions on the cannabis industry. And it wasn't, don't do it. He wasn't saying I'm for or against. Maybe he was against. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But what he does very well is understand the economy and the economics behind successful marketing and products in market. And he was very hard on, listen, Canada, and it was basically a message to government saying, if you're going to roll this out, we have an early mover advantage here. And in order to be successful and compete on the world stage and really just build the world stage, you need to do this, 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 and this. I don't think we have. And that's 100% why I wanted Tony on, because now we're 8 years, 7 years, something like that into it, since at least the Cannabis Act. And I want to see, have we done what you said we should do? But I mean, this guy, I mean, he's interviewed Miles Nadell, Maestro Fresh Wes, incredible individuals. He's a legend. He's a fucking legend, man. And he knows his shit. He knows his shit. Attack us on that, people. Anyways, it'll be interesting to hear his take on where the Canadian cannabis industry is at, because he is very vocal about it. He has no shame in saying what we need to do to improve, and where we failed. So, anyways, looking forward to that. We'll be back right after this break. All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're joined by Mr. Tony Chapman, host of Chatter That Matters and 3-time Marketing Hall of Fame inductee. I'm super excited. It's an honor to have you, Tony.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing and your interviewing style, the guests you pull in. And so the honor throws right back to you.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. We're trying. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, as they say, right? Listen, when we first connected, I remember your days of capital C, right? So going way back, my experience in the advertising world, and you were very vocal in the onset of legalization for cannabis. You were on Business News Network, you were very vocal. And one of the things that I had said is that as we move into this session, I want to get not only your marketing or your thoughts through the marketing lens, because it's a complete shit show in Canada when it comes to cannabis marketing, but also to revisit your thoughts and stance on what the Canadian government should do to ensure that we have a successful industry in this market. And I think we failed in so many ways. So, again, 2017, there's a clip, and we're going to play as much as we can of that. Maybe we'll break some in. But listen, we have opportunities for tourism. We have opportunities in the private sector. Just open it up. You're talking about the Maritimes, and there's plenty of opportunity there as well. One, I'm going to allow you, in your words, recap where your stance was in 2017, 2018, leading into that, and then we'll get into what are we seeing, what are the issues, how can we fix it, and we'll go from there.
So if I get set to stage, I'm the keynote speaker at a conference called Grow Up. It's happening in Niagara Falls. Right after I talk, Kevin O'Leary is going to talk, and then I'm going to interview him on stage. So we have a full house, packed house. Everybody's excited. Capital is flowing into the country. People think this is going to be the greatest gift that's happened to our economy. And I get up and I title my show, Cannabis, It's a Bong Show. You can imagine the audience, the pushback, the lightning bolts coming at it. And I basically said, we have the greatest opportunity that Canada has ever seen. We have first mover advantage in a category that already exists. It's worth billions of dollars around the world, called the black market. Mm-hmm. It is a category that extends from sort of new users right up to boomers and beyond. Yeah. There's a medical note to it. You couldn't ask for better conditions for success.
It's beautiful. Perfect storm.
Perfect storm. And by the way, we have the capability of growing it, and we've got some of the best seed technology and people like the food professor. We're all set up for success. Mm-hmm. What does the government do? They turn this into, typical rhetoric and tie everybody's hands behind the back. Yes, but you can't do your own packaging. Packaging is about educating people. What's the difference between indica and stevia?
Sativa,
yeah. Packaging is about education. Packaging is about presentation, differentiation. Can't do that. Mm-hmm. Every store's got to be hidden behind glass walls, almost like you're walking into a liquor store in Ontario 40 years ago.
Yeah, it's an old speakeasy of some sort, yeah.
It's all glassed up. There's no sense of excitement. There's no sampling. There's no energy. The product is priced with taxes to the point where the black market can lift their prices and make even more money. Mm-hmm. The world is awash, and very soon is going to be awash in a lot of bad weed. And what that's going to do is taint what's available in the stores. So every condition you set up for success has been taken away from you. And basically, you're going to be a commodity. The product is already a commodity. It's a weed. You're not going to allow you any ability to differentiate. But thank you very much for the taxes we're going to earn along the way. And then the second thing that goes on is the sense of how are we going to market it? Is it going to be the Ontario cannabis stores? Is it going to be the retailers? Are we going to allow Canadian advertisers to get involved and differentiate and create energy and noise? How about tourism? Are we going to get hotels involved in saying we can create a tourism hotel? We'll have medical staff on hand if people want to come in and try it. We can do a cocktail bars. We can really turn our imagination loose, have the world come to Canada like we used to go to Amsterdam, sample our cannabis, and guess what? We can create global brands from it. Great conditions. You couldn't ask for anything better other than what our government did to basically say, no, you can't do any of that other than set up a toll booth so that we can make some taxes because the black market's making too much money and we're not getting our piece of it.
Yeah. When you say it and state it like that, like even Wes, I know Wes is probably speechless because it's like, why? Why did you do this to us, right? When I look at this as an opportunity, especially even if we took it from the tax lens of, look, a little more, you would have so much more opportunity in this market. One, let me ask you, why do you think they did it this way? Why did they roll out the regulations to be so prohibitive, so restrictive? What were they fearful of?
Well, government is it's obviously about mitigating risk. And they took a big chance being one of the first countries, if not the first major country to legalize cannabis. So I can understand they want to set some boundaries, and then as those boundaries are studied, relax them. I can understand that. I think they were much too harsh at the beginning, especially with packaging, because a lot of people are going to go in going, I don't know what I want, or nervous to be even in a cannabis store and go, give me one of those or give me one of these. The next thing you know, they're couch locked or they don't know where their mind is. I mean, education's key to any category like this, especially if you're bringing people that might have sampled it in the past coming back in, people trying to limit their alcohol consumption, people trying to sleep better, trying to understand between the cannabinoids and the CBDs. There's so much education that's necessary, and we really couldn't have any ability to do that. Why they did that? I think they wanted full control, like they do with gambling, like they do with try to do with tobacco. But they lost the whole thing because they didn't put the consumer first, and they didn't unleash Canadian entrepreneurs. And in doing so, we took all this capital, squandered it, absolutely awash in capital and squandered it. And now we're sitting in a situation where not only we lost first mover advantage, there's no advantage. The exciting markets now moved on to, places like Germany, parts of the United States, Australia, Israel. That's where the excitement, the innovation, the energy, the new brands are being created. And guess what? Canada once again becomes the dumping ground for brands versus moving brands around the world and saying this is an extraordinary industry for Canadians.
Yeah, it's a great point. I remember the early days and everyone was all eyes on Canada. Let's watch what Canada's doing. I consult overseas and a lot of these regions and countries are going, let's not do what Canada did, right? They're looking at it from a medical lens and standpoint, which we did in the early days as well, right? We rolled out the medical opportunities and then layered on and built onto those. But it was, let's look what Canada did. There was a brain drain at the beginning. We need these individuals. They're doing well. We've got COOs that really know, the entire supply chain, how to run a facility. And now it's, we don't want to do what Canada did, right? Because it's too prohibitive. It's too restrictive. We're not going to make the money that we need to. And then you get reports coming where Israel's going, we don't want any of your fucking cannabis anymore. Like, stop sending us this stuff.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, like, we don't have any differentiation. We could have BC Bud. Wow. We could have created the greatest BC Bud industry. Like, guess what? Who else has done that? Napa wines, Burgundy wines, like taking a region and marketing it that anybody that happens to be within this region can create BC Bud. It's considered the finest in the world. And we're going to price it like the Four Seasons Hotel versus what we're having to do right now, which is the no frills motel you see on the highway. And that's and this, people say, well, you're looking in the rearview mirror. No, this is what I talked about a week before it launched.
That's right.
And I'm not saying this to say, oh man, I was smart and you weren't. I'm saying to us as Canadians, we somehow or other accept the conditions as opposed to going in a democratic nation. We should have been going in there and saying, no, we want to create $100 billion industry in Canada. And it's agriculture, it's farming, it's everything that we are arable, water and arable soil, everything we have at our advantage.
Yeah.
And we missed it, and it's not coming back. And all those literally billions and billions of dollars of money that came in. I mean, think of what Constellation paid for.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this stuff was just, we were awash in capital. Where's that money now? We've got, so much consolidation, so many people on life support. And it's so sad because it really turned out to be a campaign promise to say, hey, look at how hip we are in Canada versus understanding the business and doing business.
Yeah, it's a major failure, and you feel the pain, right? Because it's week over week. You see CCAAs happening, and these aren't, in the earlier days, there was a lot of capital coming in, as you say. And, it wasn't necessarily life savings. And that's what we've seen over the last 4 and 5 years is those individuals, especially as they opened up micro licensing, those are their livelihoods, their life savings. They've remortgaged houses to come into an industry to hopefully thrive in it. And then only to come in and go, whoa, what the hell? Like, I can't do this. We still meet with individuals that do not understand the marketing regulations, which is a major pain point, right? You've already hit it. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, but that is a major pain point when it comes to educating the consumer, not only on the benefits. We have to be very careful in Canada about talking about the benefits and efficacy of cannabis, but as a product, and when you're marketing, this, you've been in marketing and advertising for long enough to know packaging is a form of education to a consumer. If no other, it's in front of you. Now you can at least be educated on what does the product do, what's inside it, what are the potential benefits, where was it growing, in this case, cannabis. And that's completely off the table. Not allowed to do that either. And not only are you not allowed to do that, you can't even look into a shop, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, listen, if I want to make a decision on what wine to buy, I can sample it. I can go to the vineyard. I can sample it. I can go in an LCBO and they're always sampling, trying to get me to try something new. We can't do any of this. Why bars that are desperate for traffic? Alcohol sales are way down. They're desperate for traffic. They're desperate to find something else to bring people in. Why can't they have cannabis cocktails? I mean, what have we learned over the last 4 years? I can tell you that if I give you science, alcohol is really tough on your body and some would argue a poison. But from what I understand, especially when it comes to edibles, somebody's only using cannabis as edibles. There's been no sense of liver disease, kidney disease.
Right.
It's a very different way to take the edge off the day. I'm not advocating for cannabis over alcohol, but what I'm saying is the world's moving. The non-alcohol movement is sweeping over. And cannabis has an opportunity to fill that gap, not only for the consumer that might look at the end of a day where I'm just increasingly feeling like the world's unaffordable and I'm in the storm, or retailers that, as you said, have mortgaged their life, or hospitality. And why aren't we allowing this many years later? And again, it's because it's been another sin tax that governments are very good at. I want to control sports gambling. Think of what's happened over the last couple of years. I've been an advocate going, why are we educating an entire world to gamble against these odds? It's tobacco. And now, of course, it's cannabis. And it was just their way of setting up that toll booth. And they do that really well. They tax you to death. And then when you've got your money in your pocket, they'll do everything they can to sell you something else. So,
But at the end of the day, if we're assessing it from a tax perspective, you would think they'd be smart enough to understand opening up opportunities for tourism, opening up these, further opportunities for understanding and educating. It's going to increase the tax rate, like or not the rate, but the amount of taxes collected.
It's going to increase jobs. It's going to create
everything.
Energy in the city. It's going to make Toronto combine their music scene with their cannabis scene.
Yeah.
Combine and it doesn't have to be widespread. You can control it. You can contain it.
Absolutely.
King Street, whatever. I mean, but it doesn't, I just don't understand the logic of legalizing cannabis, but making it almost impossible for the retailer, the consumer to navigate their way through it. To me, I don't understand the logic. The only thing I could say, I don't work in government, is these silos never talk to each other. Tourism never puts up their hand and goes, you know what? We really need a tourism boost in this country. Can we at least test BC? Can we test Niagara region and do something really interesting there? And if the answer keeps coming back, no, I mean, I just don't understand the logic. I mean, they've done this with wine. They've done this with alcohol and spirits. I can go to a micro distillery and taste their gin before I make a commitment to it. Their packaging and craft beer is sensational.
Incredible.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And yet I go in, I'd be embarrassed to take the packaging that I can get in a cannabis store to my doctor with a urine sample in it. That's how embarrassed I am about that packaging, let alone something that I'd say, this is something that's exciting me. This is something I'm going to bring out at a dinner table and saying, hey, why don't we try this tonight instead of 4 bottles of wine? People,
I love that.
So many people as they hit 50 plus medically, they have trouble sleeping. Sleeping is the most important thing for preventative health. Is there a solution within natural herbs like cannabis and CBDs to help me sleep? I don't know. I go into a store, talking to a young kid, they might not know. Every package just looks like envelopes behind the counter. But if we started thinking that way, I think everybody would have that win.
Yeah, absolutely they would. And you do see there are some provinces, because it's a very awkward model, right? Because we have at the federal level, this is your Cannabis Act, these are your regulations. And then for distribution, sales, dispensaries, etc., provinces, you go ahead and figure that out. You go ahead. And remember Ontario shit show, right? It's all going to be OCS. It's all going to be online. And then Doug Ford comes in. You go, oh, hold on. We're going to do brick and mortar. We're going to do brick and mortar as well as online. And then they nixed that and they said, well, hold on. No, we're going to allow private retail, but it's going to be through a lottery. And if that wasn't enough, they go, whoa, hold on. Actually, as a matter of fact, if you've got the money, you can build something out, apply, spend your money on the licensing, and you'll potentially get a license, which has created, in my small town, 55,000, 7 dispensaries. And then you just see them. Now it's like dominoes. They're starting to fall, right? Because of that oversight. There's very little, okay, well, hold on. We're saturated in this market. We may not want to do that. Like these dispensaries are carrying 300 plus SKUs. That is crazy. And then, you speak to the point of the bud tender, and this is what the regulations have created, is that these brands, they're not able to necessarily, there are ways, but they're not necessarily able to promote to the consumer. So they're left to promote and educate the bud tender. What other industry, Tony, do we see that in? Is there one? In wine, there is some of that.
I would argue pharmaceutical with doctors, but even that, every time I turn on CNN, all I'm hearing about is a new drug I should be asking my doctor for. So I don't think it exists. But, again, the sadness of all of this is we lost first mover advantage. And if you're in business and you have first mover advantage, and in this case, with a market that already exists, because it was the black market, and you have an ability to attract a variety of different age groups, and with the medical components, also talk about solutions as well. Those are fertile grounds that we didn't plant seeds in and water. And again, I argue 5 years from now, we will get the equivalent of Budweiser Bud, and we'll get the equivalent of Gillette Bud, and all these multinationals will have nailed these products and distribute them. And we're going to look back and go, what another squandered opportunity for Canada. But at least we're consistent. It's not the first time we've done that, nor will it be the last, where we don't think big enough as a country.
Well, that's one of the things that you've always paid attention to. Even cut your post this morning, and it's like, you don't want to be negative, but when you turn things on and you look and you just open your eyes, get away from your phones, get away from programs, just look at what's going on. There's too much that you can err on the side of negativity with. And that's what I look at now. And I go, the economy is in the tank. Like, it is not doing any, a couple front runners, whatever. There is a perfect opportunity to continue, reverse some of the tide and capitalize on cannabis if they're being smart. Now, Health Canada has stated, they're open to public input. They're looking at certain areas of the regulations that they will reform. We all know this isn't going to necessarily happen, and not in the areas that it needs to. So the question is, one, can we reverse this opportunity that we lost? Is that even possible? And if not, what can we do?
I think the only way you can do it is you got to take a page from the wine book and take a couple of territories in Canada that would have an immediate positive sentiment with the consumer. And I go back to BC Bud and open the doors there and say, okay, we're going to create some phenomenal growers out there. They're going to have the equivalent of what vineyards do with a place to come and sample the product.
Yeah.
We're going to have tourism. We're going to have festivals. And BC Bud, whatever comes out of this Napa Valley, whatever comes out of BC Bud, you can have your individual brand names, but that's going to be a seal of approval. That's something you could do. And I argue you could do that in BC. You could even argue do it in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Prince Edward County, potentially. It's a bit of a stretch, but BC for sure is where I would start from and make that my powerhouse for a global brand.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that, then there is also the struggle, which I think the government has to step in and allow for, export and exchange a little bit easier, because it's a nightmare, right? Any of these companies, one, they're only able to export bulk. But why not?
Nobody wants bulk. This is what you got to understand.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
We've got tons. I think it's 3 tons surplus right now.
Yeah.
Everybody can grow this product. It's not like, it's not like you've got 100-year-old vineyard roots in the ground in Burgundy that only produce a certain note. Anybody can grow it. So you got to very quickly move to value added and branding, right? So the difference between cornflakes and corn, is about $100 billion in value. Right now we're in the corn business and we're shipping corn, and I can go and grow cannabis for a fraction of the cost of a greenhouse where there's a sunshine 365 days a year. So if we don't very quickly move to a branding strategy, we're not even going to have a growing community because the greenhouse. So the concept of thinking we're going to export this product and the world's going to be so happy about it. I hate to break the news to you, but Germany, Israel, Australia, and every other market's going to protect their farmers if it's just a commodity over our farmers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you don't believe that in Canada. Have you heard of the dairy board, the chicken farmers board, the milk board? So this is going to be no different. And so branding's our only move. Is it too late? Give me BC Bud and give me a free reign with about a handful of really smart people and some of the best packaging people, and start using social media and get involved in a couple of big rock tours and music tours. And I think you got a shot, but it's just not the way we work in Canada.
It's not. And it's so sad because even the early days, I went back and revisited your BNN interview, and, Gene Simmons at the time was trying to come in, and you had the Trailer Park Boys, right? And we remember what was going on with those. And then, whoa, you can't allow that. Whew, it's celebrity endorsement. We can't allow that. But on your point about branding, it's very interesting. And I think it's very smart because, Canada, we haven't capitalized on it, but the US certainly has. Right. So in Canada, we have certain US brands that have been very successful because they know how to market. Right. So Cookies is one. Jeter just came in. Jeter's minis or babies, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. And so many individuals that are not in the industry do not realize that product didn't even come from the US. None of it did. Right. None of it. The only thing that came into Canada was the brand. The product is still produced and packaged and milled and put into pre-rolls and whatever it might be here in Canada. So it's a Canadian product, but it's a brand that moved. So to your point of, it's got to be around branding. That's how you move it internationally. That's how you build this as an opportunity. I think you're on point. I don't see it any other way.
And we started off with with Tweed and Tokyo Smoke. And I mean, there was some really, even before it was even legalized, there was some really interesting things happening because it attracted a young creative group.
Yeah.
A culture that grew up creating versus just consuming content. That's a big point.
Yeah.
This is a group that creates content at the speed of life. They're not sitting there waiting for some commercial to come at them. And they did a wonderful job. And we could have just continued to unleash it. I would have loved to have seen $100 million worth of work happen within the Canadian marketing community. I would have loved to have seen retail on the main streets and, where everybody feared the cannabis store at the beginning. But suddenly going and saying, well, in a higher end market, going to kind of look like, going to look like Holt Renfrew. And in a more equity deserving market, it's going to have more of a no frills approach. And it's going to be something and test all these different formats out. Couche-Tard is going to become the biggest convenience store company in the world. It's Quebec company.
Yeah.
I think they could have done a pretty good job at cannabis if we let them at it.
And it's funny because when we look at Canada as a whole, it's difficult. But you want to talk difficult by province, Quebec.
Listen, our intertrade, we have better free trade agreements with 65 countries than we do inside our borders. I'm going to say that again. We have a better free trade terms with 65 countries outside of Canada than we do inside our borders. What we have is a lot of protectionism, a lot of partisan interest, and it reflects a country that's overgoverned.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 40 million people. We have a federal government, provincial government, municipal governments. We have, trustees, school boards. I mean, we are so overgoverned. Everybody's trying to protect their turf.
Yeah.
And that's why you have these interprovincial issues. I don't want your wine, BC, because I have Ontario wine. As opposed to going, what wine does a consumer want? And let's create the marketplace around it. And so, but again, we're going to go into another topic, but unless voters are saying enough is enough, we demand you change the status quo. I think Canadians are like whack-a-mole. Every once in a while we look around and go, things aren't quite as good as they used to be. And then we get hit on the head and we go back. We don't demand change. And interprovincial cannabis is one of the smallest elements of what we should be doing to trade within each other, because the money then circulates within Canada.
Yeah. Wow. Just laying on the truths, man. I don't know if I can handle them all. There's so many.
Well, it's not, listen, I hate, I try to stay away from it because it just makes me so.
But it's all relative, Tony,
all
and that's
real.
that's why I wanted you on, is because you paint the picture for us, right? You help us to understand.
We're a frog with a maple leaf tattooed on us, and we're in a pot of warm water, and the heat's getting, and it just keeps turning up, and we're just not doing enough to say enough is enough.
Incredible. And one of the things that we've talked about this with many guests, one in particular is Jonathan Wilson. He's out in Shediac Cape, doing everything he can, educates. They've got a farm gate there. And one of the things, he comes from a political family, and he's like, listen, we need this to change. It's not one. There's no one thing that will affect the entire industry overnight. But something we keep coming back to is the fact that if consumers were more aware, right? And I think I want to get your thoughts on this. If consumers were more aware, I forget who brought it up, Wes, but someone brought it up. When you're at the pump, you're fueling up, there's a tax sticker there, and it shows for every liter pumped, this much of your dollar is going to tax. This was sort of the outcome of, if consumers knew that in many provinces, 76% of every dollar you spend is taxes, they might open their eyes. Now, again, for how long? Until they, whack-a-mole and hit them on the head with something. But does it make sense that if you could rally the consumers, if the consumers were more educated, understood the workings of the cannabis industry, how much money is getting collected in taxes and not necessarily getting put back into that industry, would that affect change or opportunities to affect change?
It's great to give consumers the awareness, because I'm an advocate that says the only way we're going to change this country is with financial literacy. Because if I don't have financial literacy, I vote for the free prize inside. I'm just like, I buy the Cheerios that's got the honeycomb or the mystery ring on the front. I don't even know what the Cheerios taste like, but I want the ring. And that's kind of how we vote.
Yes,
so until we get financial literacy and say, if we don't change this in 5 or 10 years, you could offer me free dental care, free dog walking. You can offer to free car washing for my vote. But one day we're going to run out of money.
Right.
And when we run out of money, it's going to hurt. Yeah. So, but if financial literacy came in and we said, okay, let's maybe start rethinking how we vote. Yes. Telling people where we're spending our money, and they're going, does that make sense? But the other thing I'd say to you, though, is what I never see in the public sector, which I appreciate in the private sector, is what I call petri dishes. Why can't you carve out an area of BC and say, go crazy? Let's see what happens. Let's create this as a living experience. Let's look at what happens to the society, or the economy. Is it changing use? So it goes from sort of recreational. We got to watch that, but suddenly make it large as desire. Let's look at all the factors, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's study them all. And if it comes out on the side of this makes sense to take some or all of it, roll it across the country. But the problem is with government is we try to boil the ocean every time, try to turn this Titanic every time. So the only easy answer we can do is dip our net in the water and go for more taxes. But if we really thought about it, if we said okay, tourism, branding, we got some of the best agencies in BC, rethink, let's build this BC Bud strategy. Let's make it full on. I would tell you in 6 months, we might be looking and going, wow, that is an exciting marketplace we've created. No one's done it yet in cannabis. Like, by the way, it's not a new idea. Again, Napa Valley. Burgundy region, right?
Well, and that's the thing. You can't sit back and go, oh, we don't know if it would work. Hello.
Yeah, it works. People want to know the region it came from and what are the notes of the region.
Yeah.
And then the people that are growing it, they want the stories of it, just like they want the stories of the winemakers. So
yeah,
again, I'm not anti-alcohol, pro-cannabis, or vice versa. I'm about pro-consumer
yeah,
and understanding the consumer and how they think, feel, and behave. And putting creativity against that is the only way magic happens. When you come at it from what's in it for me, more taxes,
right.
or even an investor, a better return on my money, or even a grower just selling my product, you're going to fail. But if you put that consumer's hat on and help them get to where they want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, this should be a global, if medical cannabis is in fact, there's an exciting area about, anxiety, it's not a chemical or it's not a pill I got to take every month or every night. There's something about that comes in that says medical cannabis can do X, Y, or Z. If it's scientifically proven, if it's peer reviewed research, why aren't we building global brands around that? What's stopping us? Is it the lobbying of the big pharma? Is it the inertia with government? I don't know what it is, but to me, a natural herb that's extracted naturally and provided to me in a natural way, which I'm very anti-inhaling anything, provided me in a natural way, to me, is something that's very consumer facing.
Yeah. Well, he did mention big pharma.
I'm not privy to what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, looking at it though, certain things line up, right? Our natural healthcare products have been under fire for forever. And to the point now where they're trying to shut them down completely. You have to think there's some lobbying going on. We won't go into any conspiracy or what's actually going on.
I just put this chart up today in my LinkedIn post. The number one industry for lobbying for governments is pharma.
Yeah. So and always has been, I think, other than tobacco. Yeah, exactly.
Help us or hurt us, I don't know. But I'd have to argue that that lobbying dollars there's a great correlation between lobbying dollars and policy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so one, you mentioned Rethink, Chris Staples, Aaron Starkman, and I just love those guys. These guys are legends. And it's funny that you mentioned Rethink because that's exactly where my mind went 2 years ago, going, if we could only market, if we could get creative. And I immediately went to Chris and his team, Aaron, I forget when he had joined Rethink, but I was just like, this is phenomenal. Like this is how you would do it. But we veil the information so much. If I don't drink a lot, if I do want a beer, I will consume a craft beer. The first thing I do is before I purchase it, I'm looking at it, the artwork may get me, whatever might get me, but then I'm looking, where was it produced? Where is it from? And this information is so veiled, so shielded from the public right now. I have to search a website. I have to go to LinkedIn. I have to find them. I have to follow them. I have to do this. I have to go OCS. I have to click for more information. Why? It's just information. It's good information. I don't understand why we have to be so secretive of it. It doesn't make any sense.
I wish we had the answer. And I go back to the cannabis, it's a Bong show, and everybody just staring daggers at me. And I'm going, guys, you have no idea what you're entering into. You can't market with two hands tied behind your back.
Yeah.
You think that just is, the natural growth is taking share from the black market to your market. They're among the most sophisticated marketers in the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of them use cannabis as a gateway to get you involved in bigger drugs.
Potentially.
And they're
absolutely.
they're the third biggest crime industry in the world. So, and maybe even after cybercrime and human trafficking, they're number 3 and they're up there. So they're pretty good at what they do.
Yeah,
they're pretty good
100%.
in every market. And they've managed to find a way to keep a supply chain going against the best that the United States has thrown against them. And they still find a way to supply a market. So to think you're just going to walk in as a skip in the park and it's not a guy in a hoodie around the corner that you're going after. You're going after a very tight organization.
Yeah.
So you better be good. And the only way you're going to be good is you better be able to differentiate, package, market, educate, celebrate. And until that happens, it's a store to collect taxes.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that market, you've mentioned it before, I think at the time, estimated $57 billion market in the US. I know it's climbed, right? It's climbed since then because there's more awareness. And part of what's going on is, we took a ton of flack because we were hard on our stance that if you're supporting illicit market, not necessarily just products, our focus was more on illicit stores because the general public and consumer does not necessarily know what the difference is right now. Those that are in the industry, they know it. They know some of the regulations. They know where to buy it. They know this. But in some cases, a friend, Lisa, she owns Stoked in Scarborough. 2 doors down, they open up an illicit shop. She cannot put flags on her front lawn. She cannot advertise the price of cannabis. She has to have window coverings. There's a multitude of things that she has to adhere to. And meanwhile, the illicit store beside her is flying flags, $3 pre-rolls, this. We're open till 1 a.m. There's a restriction on when you can be open to. So why, again, I just don't understand if the government is so adamant that, yes, we want to ensure that it's a healthy market, that the black market is not thriving, why not do more? Like where is the hesitancy to move in and start shutting down illicit dispensaries? I just don't understand.
We seem to have moved on as a society from civility and honoring those who play by the rules to a society where we're turning a blind eye for people that don't play by the rules. And I don't know why that is. I'm hoping this is just a pendulum swing and it'll come back the other way. But I was in an LCBO a couple of weeks ago and somebody ran out with a bunch of product and there was a security guard there and staff there and nobody stopped them. This is a true story. And I said to the guy at the counter, I said, what happened there? He says, hold on for a sec. He pulled out his book. What did he take? And he wrote down what he took. I said, confused. He said, no, we're not allowed to stop them. I said, what about the security guard? No, they're not allowed to stop them. They're just there to be, a deterrent.
Yeah.
I said, so why am I paying for this?
Yeah.
Like, why am I sitting here paying for this?
Right.
And the guy shrugged his shoulders. And, another story, I was shopping with my nieces back to school. I was getting them, and they were in a store on Yonge Street. And I saw a guy come in, he had a couple of bags, his girlfriend, and I said, I'm just being ignorant. I just immediately thought they were shoplifters, but I'm just like, it's so bad of me to think of that. They could be the most upstanding citizens in the world. 15 minutes later, the bell rings and they're both running out the store. Security guard, staff, nobody stops them. So this broken window strategy that happened in New York to clean up New York, where we got to stop these things. We got to, auto thefts, all the stuff that's just creeping into our world. We got to find a way to contain that. If not, we're going to continue to lack civility. And if we study history, that's not a great city to live in. No. And so when you mentioned the long answered question, they shouldn't be allowed to operate. If she's forced to operate within these rules, then the person that opened 2 doors down shouldn't be drafting off all the traffic she's built and have an advantage that she doesn't. Now, I would prefer free market. If he wants to go $3, she wants to go $2.80, whatever the price point is, let the market decide it.
Sure.
That's my preference.
But she's not allowed.
But she's not allowed to. So basically what she's doing is paying a landlord a lot of rent. Yeah. And it'll be very interesting to see, because someone's going to go, if they're both commodities, why would I pay an extra $1 here versus there?
Right. And again, it comes back to that consumer not necessarily being educated. Some know 100%. That's a legal regulated store. This one is illicit. I'm going to get better prices potentially over here.
Well, I mean, this in the world of affordability. People are there's a stampede to the best price right now happening. Yeah. And it's in every category. The value segment's exploding. And, with all the aggregators out there, I used to think about, geez, I think I'd love to stay in a Marriott. Now I go to booking.com and it tells me within my star range and location what the prices of 5 different hotels. And I really don't care whether I'm at Marriott anymore, even though I have points.
Right.
I've lost that's lost that. So the aggregators so price is very important. And that individual is allowed to discount. Ultimately, they're going to win the market share.
Yeah. Are you seeing that? I mean, even outside of cannabis, you bring up booking.com. I mean, in cannabis, there's also, which is technically not allowed within the regulations, to be advertising price. So there are, weed finders, right? So there's various platforms that you can go on, you put in what you're looking for, and it'll show you the best price closest to a radius in your house or radius to your home. Are you seeing this more often? Because I understand, I was always West and West and West. I love the smell, love the mattress, loved everything, right? Loved everything about it. And then I'm like, do I need to spend the extra $100? Like, why am I doing it? Are you seeing, is it economic pressure? What is affecting that, where we're just getting to this point where I don't have that brand loyalty that I had once for, and I'm just using Weston as an example right now, but it's across the board.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the days of Coke saying open happiness, Budweiser saying the king of beer, or Pepsi saying that we're the choice of the new generation is over. No, nobody cares.
Yeah.
I care about Red Bull because it lets me do 26 hours in a 24-hour day. I care about brands that help me get to where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I'll be willing to pay a premium to a point for those if they really are highly personalized and I feel they're really part of what my decision set is.
Yeah.
Overall, though, for 98% of the other brands, it's absolutely a stampede to value. And a big part of it is because we're doing more shopping online and we can't squeeze a Charmin, price becomes a tiebreaker.
Right.
And so everybody that's online is trying to get as much of the frills out. So now I bought that airplane ticket. That's exciting. You got to pay for my seat selection. You got to pay for my bag. You got to pay if I change my ticket. But on the aggregator, it certainly looked like that was the best price.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing right now is price is becoming increasingly the tiebreaker. And so there's no doubt that in every category, there's a lot of aggregators that are making money. I don't have to rent a store. I don't have to take inventory costs. I don't have to train staff. I don't have, basically I can do is just harness all the intelligence out there and point the consumer in the right way and take a little clip from driving that traffic to somebody.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, look at Skip the Dishes, look at, Uber Eats. I mean, you look at the Booking.com, Airbnb, Amazon, the biggest vending machine in the world sits in the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
All of these people have done where Amazon will take inventory. Very often, a lot of these places are just simply pointing you to where you can get the best price.
Yeah, that's, it's something that we're looking at a lot more. Delivery, especially for cannabis in COVID was big, or click and collect. But it's one of the areas within this industry that it was still a lot of foot traffic to the stores. Brick and mortar were, king. But we're starting to see this mild shift. It's not all the way there yet. To its online shopping, right? So I'm going to go through, I'm going to find the best price. Do they have delivery in my area? And the greater hubs, obviously Toronto, the GTA. Yes, you have that, Edmonton, etc. Smaller, towns like my own, you don't necessarily see that. But I'm wondering if this will affect the store's ability to continue to operate, one, but also if the consumer, because you mentioned, Amazon, vending machine in your hand. I love that. But I'm looking at this now going, if we start to shift because there's so much foot traffic into the stores, and there is that interaction, right? You're interacting with a bud tender. In some cases, they have some product on display. And even though it's micro font because of the packaging restrictions, will we start seeing more brands failing potentially, or these companies failing as we slowly shift to this delivery model?
Oh, without question. And I mean, OCS would love to, in Ontario, delivery, single point of inventory. I don't need the security these stores need. I don't need to pay high street traffic. So there's a real cost advantage online, especially if the product is deemed to be a commodity. There's no question. Personally, this is going to be very controversial. I would ban online sales because I think this product is about socialization. I'd love to see people go to Main Street and walk into stores and have a conversation and really feel excited about their purchase and maybe have an opportunity to create an experience that goes with it, including sampling if that's the case. And really, have a facility that just does gaming. Whatever the marketplace calls for, I'd love to see that. I know I'm a Luddite. I'm not going to stop the online. But the reality is the more it moves online, the more your friend who's got the legal operation, and I'll tell you something, 5 years from now, here's my prediction. Hopefully you can run it. Amazon.
Hold on, save that. Don't tell us yet, because we have that question queued up for you at the end of this, which came from David Brown. He runs StratCan in this space. And I agree with you. I would love, because there is that personalization. You're experiencing it. You're talking to a bud tender. You're becoming educated. It's very social. It's a very social product. Yeah. However, there are still individuals, and this is part of what we see now, is that the wellness category within cannabis, first of all, we can't call it that. Even though there are companies that operate within there. They do topicals, they do balms, they do skincare creams, they do, CBD vapes, these sort of things, whatever it is. It's within this wellness realm. Can't put wellness. There was a famous store on Queen Street, had wellness on the door. The AGCO came by and said, you can't do that. You got to take that off. Okay. But then you have this consumer demographic that they are searching for these wellness type products, higher CBD, lower THC. They could be topicals, whatever it is. These individuals don't necessarily like to visit the stores or the dispensaries. How would you deal with that in that case? And also, how do you expand that demographic?
That product should be sold in Sephora.
Absolutely.
That product should be
There you
sold.
go.
And listen, our indigenous culture and understanding of natural herbs leading to wellness. It's not just cannabinoids. And I mean, they got a wide array of plants and herbs that they found. And if you study their culture, as they often say, the forest talks to me. The forest tells me where to go for these things.
Yeah.
All of this stuff should be available mainstream.
Yeah.
There should be I mean, you know, the top health and wellness people should be celebrating the fact these are natural ingredients that have an advantage to do it. The other thing, I'm going to be very bold and say convenience stores should be selling cannabis. Not just they should have gone beer, wine, and cannabis. Convenience stores have been selling cigarettes for years very responsibly.
Yep.
You know, so why not that? Why not give those first generation Canadians, often the people that work in those convenience stores, a chance to socialize, to learn the whole new category, to bring new traffic and breathe new life in their stores. So, I mean, it wouldn't be difficult to create a little bit of renewed industry, but a self-standing cannabis store on its own, I struggle with how it's going to sustain itself in the future.
Yeah. Especially when there's 10 of them.
There's 10 of them. They're all the same.
Yeah.
And they all look the same. They all have the same glass counters. They all smell the same. They all have that door that they go into to get the product that's locked. Looks like a safe. There's no lounges. There's no energy. There's no, why isn't bringing back vinyl is becoming so huge? Why isn't there a vinyl cannabis store?
Yeah.
Like with great merchandise. And you come in there and you go, man, I'm going to listen to some music. I'm going to talk to somebody that's an expert in that. And we're going to sit back. And if somebody wants to have some cannabis and listen to music, if you're okay as a country legalizing it and you're okay that people can take it outside their homes, what's stopping you from allowing them to take it in a retail store? And you tell me, if you take a great creative person, vinyl, cannabis,
coffee,
music memorabilia, coffee.
You
got yourself a winning retail operation. And to tell you something, you're going to suddenly have, you got to imagine if you say the next store is going to be twice as big and have a little stage and then celebrate local music. I'm going to have you can get a chance of the mic on Monday nights here. And I'm going to start selling craft beer. And I'm going to start, and next thing you know, that's a really interesting operation.
Yeah.
I got these places like Spin that are ping pong places down in Toronto, but you got to somehow excuse it to. But I got to believe that there might be a group of people that would like to go to. There's a bar there. I can get a beer there. I can get wine.
Yeah.
Why can't I get?
There's definitely a demographic for it. Go ahead, Wes.
I said that to Tom. I think it was a couple episodes ago. I said I'm surprised at this point we haven't seen your standard bars, or not necessarily restaurants, but bars selling cannabis beverages along with their standard beverages, right? I feel like that would be right. Yeah, I'm shocked at this point that that's not happened.
They want to so badly. They want to bring cannabis into food. Yeah. There's chefs that are experts at creating these cannabis infused meals that kind of take you up and down in a certain way because of the chemistry of the food and the cannabis. All of this exists, but listen, what we're very good at is hiring rule makers. What I don't think we've ever hired is a rule breaker. In this whole country, I've never seen anybody come in and go, "That's stupid rule. Let's get rid of that. That's a stupid rule. Let's get rid of that." That really did. That might have worked when we had horses, but no, let's get rid of that. Like ball hockey, you can't play ball hockey in the streets in Toronto. We're going to get rid of that, as opposed to no, that's got to go to council and be voted on. No, and for 8 hours because maybe one time something happened where somebody lost their headlight because of an errant ball hockey. I don't even know why they would think that. But the same thing applies to this industry is you just got to, and if you're so scared, give a couple of regions free reign.
Yeah.
Free reign.
Petri dish. Yeah, I like that. You say that. Petri dish. Yeah.
And let the magic of the tourism and the music and the culture and the retail and let it happen. And I'll tell you something, The next thing you know, that street will be Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays, no traffic, just promenade. So there'll be no, people can walk, have a good time. There'll be, someone will make sure that they set up if somebody feels they're a little out of control. Here's a way to just chill. Like whatever it is, they'll figure it out because that's capitalism.
Yeah.
But when you come in and go, no, you end up with no.
Well, it stifles creative vision as well, right? We know this. So two questions, one of them being our wrap-up question, which we've been doing this. So we get our previous guest to pose a question to our incoming guest, and then you get to do the same. But before we get to that, what are your thoughts on, because you mentioned the OCS once. So OCS, online, you can purchase online. They're also the wholesaler. It's direct competition. We have a good relationship with OCS for the show because they help with some data and stats and all that fun stuff. But general thoughts?
Anytime you put too much power in the hands of one person or one organization, it doesn't bode well for the consumer. I can't think of one case where, everything is connected. And hence, I'm not a fan of our government be involved in the retail space.
Right.
I don't mind you're going to want to tax it, but I don't think you should be involved. And I argue the same thing with the LCBO. If you own a restaurant and you deal with the LCBO, it's like you're dealing with a lot of bureaucracy. And if you trust that restaurant enough to give them a license, if you trust them enough to serve alcohol, then trust them to do what's right for the consumer, what's right for their community, and what's right for their business. If they don't, take away their license.
Right.
But this policing attitude, this lack of trust, this fear of something might go wrong, so it's all risk versus reward, is really hurting our country, and we're feeling it certainly within our economy.
Yeah, 100% we are. Okay. Wes, got the question for Mr. Chapman?
Yes. So David Brown from StratCan was on last week, and he had asked the question, where do you see the cannabis industry in the next 5 years?
Well, if we continue along the same path, it'll be owned by Amazon. And like Amazon controls just about everything else in the world. And you will bow to Amazon's terms. And Amazon will have the ability with their algorithms to decide who's on first, who's on second, and who's sitting on the bench. If we open our eyes to possibilities and give the brands enough strength and power, they'll build a counter Amazon because they will be something the consumer covets. But to do so, it's going to have to be a fully integrated strategy. I think it's too late to just think that a standalone cannabis brand in Canada can do it. It has to be a region, and it has to be a region that is magnetic enough to bring in music, culture, food, hospitality, socialization, and imagination. We bring all those things together. There's a few markets in Canada that could stand out, and I don't mean stand up against Amazon, but be strong enough that Amazon's not going to put strings on them and treat them like a puppet, but they'll treat them more like a partner.
I love that. Let's hope for that one.
So now you get to ask a question of next week's guests without knowing who they are. They may or may not be directly in the cannabis industry, but and it doesn't have to be a cannabis specific question. It could be anything.
Tell me two brands, share an example of a brand that matters to you and why, compared to a brand in a similar category that doesn't matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Frame it. I could also frame it like this way. My podcast is called Chatter That Matters. I focus on what matters most. And I'm always curious to ask people, what product or service matters to you and why? And then when you answer that, is it because of its marketing, or is it because it's helping you get to where you want to go?
Very cool.
Got it.
Love it. Well, Tony, we could go on forever because there's a lot of issues, but listen, we're absolutely honored to have you on today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, continue with Chatter That Matters. Tune in as much as I can. Like you probably consume a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different content, but
you got to listen to Aaron Starkman's interview.
I'm partway through. Don't ruin anything for me.
I think it's one of the best master classes in marketing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Aaron is a different gem altogether. Completely humble, incredible individual. I think I had mentioned I had the opportunity to interview him way back at the CP&B, I think, at the time. But also, I mean, you know, I go back to the days of Miles Nadell as well. I've watched and listened to that one. Maestro Fresh Wes. Come on, man. You're killing it. You're doing awesome.
Well, I got Beyonce's dad I'm interviewing tomorrow. So it's...
oh, yeah? Wow.
I got some pretty interesting people coming on the fall that are really sharing some important stories. So I'm honored. I'm humbled that I get to do what I want to. I spent my entire life talking to a mic. Now I'm spending my entire life help drawing really important insights out. And I can't be happier.
Well, and I think that, you know, you're driven by curiosity. And that's one of the things that Wes and I, we get the opportunity every week to sit with intriguing and interesting guests like yourself. And it scratches my own itch, because this would be you and I having a coffee in Toronto at a coffee bar and asking you the same questions. So scratches my itch. I love it. But we thank you so much for joining Legacies, and we hope you have a great day, and we'll continue to tune into Chatter That Matters. Well, what do you think of that, Wes? Mr. Tony Chapman telling it straight.
What a legend. I liked his one kind of note or sentence on where we're kind of at in Canada with the loss of civility, loss of, you know, the turning a blind eye to people doing things that we used to or would have questioned them for in the past. I think that's been obvious. But it's just when he said it, I'm like, wow. Yeah.
I had not really paid attention to it until he said it, but it's on point. It's 100% accurate. It seems that there's so much of it going on that we're almost becoming numb to it, right? Because there's just more and more and more and more happening. But I mean, you know, like, let's take a page out of what he's saying, which is just open it up a little bit. And we do see some traction, right? We see a very minor amount, but Alberta at least, hopefully BC will see some. But create a petri dish, trial it. See what comes of it, right? Health Canada. Come on, man. Let's go.
Yep.
Anyways, it was great having him on. I know that we had booked him quite a while back, and he's got a very successful podcast as well. If you want to check it out, it's Chatter That Matters. I'm sure Wes, you'll put it up there. Incredible guest. I think, what did he mention? Tomorrow he's interviewing Beyonce's dad.
Yeah. Wild.
And that's, you know, again, he's had some incredible guests on. But anyways, check it out. We're sure you will enjoy it. First episode powered by Breadstack, Wes.
Yeah. Thank you to our sponsors.
Yes.
Fantastic e-commerce solution. So you should definitely check them out. The link to them is down in the description.
Yeah. Check them out. Tell them we sent you. You'll like it. Anyways. All right. This wraps up our 26th halfway through the year episode. Loving it.
That's right.
All right. See you next time on Legacies, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.